Welcome back to another episode of Lead Stronger Longer, the podcast that empowers you to purposefully lead your life personally and professionally. My guest today is Mike Kays. He is a veteran of the investment industry spanning from 1983 to 2023. He founded and presided over the Willingdon Wealth Management until its acquisition by Exential Wealth Advisors in 2020. He's now retired, and he dedicates his time to coaching youth sports and co-founding the Stewards of the Game Youth Sports Ministry. He's a former Masters track decathlon champion. Mike is also an active member of the Davidson United Methodist Church, and he is an author of spiritual books. He resides in North Carolina with his wife of over 37 years, Mary Lynn, and their 3 children. Welcome, Mike. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's start off with your favorite quote or mantra.
That was a really difficult question because I have a lot of favorite quotes. I'm a big quote guy, but I think that the one that resonates the most with me that's really helped me in my life is that it's amazing what can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. And I think that's a quote from John Wooden. But that's really at the heart of what I tried to do in my life in terms of leadership. And really that's been the foundation post from what I've tried to do in my life.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely a fabulous quote to live by and lead by. No question. All right. I asked you on for more reasons than just you being a leader, certainly in the financial world. But now that you've retired, you're leading in a totally different way. And you have this perspective that's almost like this bird's eye view that can really shed some light on those up and coming leaders, as well as those that are in the trenches right now. And normally I'll ask at this time, what led you to your specialization? But you've got such an interesting overview, yes, in the financial world, but I'd like to hear a little bit more of your on the edge of what led to your specialization and how you really fostered that in your experience as a leader. Can you share with us, if that makes sense, what my question was?
Sure. I kind of stumbled into the investment business. I'll kind of make that part real short. I got out of business school in 1983 and moved to Columbus, Ohio. I had a good buddy that lived there, and I just put on a suit. And I mean, this is before internet, before email, before cell phones, the dark ages. And I just put on a suit and went downtown and tried to meet people and get interviews and fill out applications. And about the 4th day, I just stumbled into a place and saw a name on the registry that I recognized from back home where I grew up near Syracuse, New York. And I said, I'm going to go and try to meet that guy. And I did. And it turns out he was from an area close to my hometown. And one thing led to another. We just hit it off. And I got home that night thinking, boy, that was a good conversation. He gave me a couple of names to talk to. And it didn't dawn on me to figure out what kind of business it was. And I had no idea what he did, but it was just nice to talk to somebody. So he called later that night and he said, guess what happened at the office today? And I said, what? He said, one of my key portfolio managers resigned. And being a little bold, and when you're unemployed, you have to be a little bit bold to kind of get across the line. I said, I'll start tomorrow. And he paused for a minute and he said, are you serious? And I said, sure. What time do you want me to be there? He said, 8:00. So I started as a portfolio manager at one of the biggest institutions in the country, Public Employees Retirement System of Ohio. The next morning at 8:00, had no idea what I was doing, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I learned so much. I was lucky enough to have some good mentors. And so I stumbled into the business and I stayed with it for the next 40 years.
That's a crazy, amazing story. And
Yes.
we have to look at this because you didn't stumble into it. And this is really important for those that are listening and wanting to lead their lives in a different way, especially in the culture that we have in 2024. I heard you say something so subtle. You be bold, but you took initiative, and it goes back to your quote, which is you didn't have an agenda. You
Hmm.
only wanted to connect, and you were looking for threads of connection from your hometown. Oh, there was common ground. And it was your fourth day of going out and communicating and putting on a suit and just showing up. This is so undervalued in our world today of putting on a suit and showing up day after day. And only on the fourth day, and then on the fifth day, you walk in and you're starting a job. And then look, what I'm hearing is the energy that you showed up as is there wasn't an agenda, there was an interest, staying curious, and oh, it was really nice to talk with someone, and you were willing to put yourself out there to meet people, and then you took initiative. That right there is like a master class in how to take the next step. If you're wondering, well, you can't sit in front of your computer and you can't sit scrolling through a telephone or your device. You have to go
Right.
out there and meet people. That is huge right there. I just want to say that. Okay, so now let's bridge to the next of what you were saying. Thank you so much for that, and so insightful.
Well, appreciate that. I was there probably a month before I realized, and this is a big organization, that I wanted to have my own company someday. I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. I was never a big company person. So it took me about 15 years before I moved into a private firm where I was a significant partner and really had managerial responsibility and was able to open my own firm in 2003. But I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And I really, if I'm going to sink or swim, I want it to be by my own efforts. I want to be responsible for myself, but if I do well, I want to benefit from that. So being in charge of my own destiny was always a big part of what I was going to do and try to build in my career. And I was never afraid to fail. And I think that's one of the key things in my life is, and I failed at a lot of things. Success never came easy in any endeavor for me. Um, but I was never afraid of it because failure is never fatal as long as you keep going, as long as you keep trying. And failure teaches you maybe there's a different way to do this. And failure can really identify who your supporters are, who your friends are. When the battle's going on, you look around the foxhole, your key friends are going to be still in there with you. The ones that aren't loyal friends, they're gone. So to go for it is I think sometimes people are a little bit too afraid to fail. And I think it's hard to be successful if you're afraid to fail, because just about everybody that's accomplished anything in their life, you talk about somebody like Edison, who failed so many times, like 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. So failure is just part of the process. It's not fatal. It's not final. So I embrace that. And I failed at a lot of things, but I picked myself up and kept going, and had some lucky breaks. And I think people tend to help people that aren't afraid to be vulnerable, aren't afraid to lay it on the line, to go for it. There'll be a lot of people that will help because people like to see success stories. They'd rather have somebody succeed than fail. And I had a lot of people help me along the way. So that was, and now as a retired person, it's my turn to turn the table and help other people. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so good. Very key things here. I would love for you to tell us, maybe pinpoint a crucial early mistake and unpack that lesson for us.
Yeah, there was a pivotal time in when I started our own company in 2003. We had a couple key members about a decade into the firm. And before we really started to grow to any substantial size, they decided to leave, and they just didn't do it in a very honorable way. They lied to some people, and it was a bad situation for everybody. And when they left, it just struck at the really at the heart of our firm. And I gathered everybody in the conference room and I said, we have two choices today. We can be angry at these two guys who left. Not that they left, but that they didn't do it in the right way. And we can spend our energy being vindictive and mad at them and try to get even, or we can kind of just leave that up to God and go about our business and take care of each other and take care of our clients and just live the a life of integrity and honor and just do the right thing for ourselves and our clients. And that's what we did. It was a spiritual time for our firm. It was a spiritual time for me, but it was really a fork in the road. And anger can destroy you from inside. You have to flush it some way, some productive way. So in the next 5 years, our firm grew tenfold in value. It just exploded. And I attribute it to our decision just to move on, be honorable, work hard, take care of each other. And we really build a servant leadership culture and a selfless culture where, again, it's amazing what you can accomplish if nobody cares who gets the credit. We were not in it for ourselves. We were in it for each other. Our teammates became like brothers and sisters. And it just that really started us on our path towards extraordinary growth and value. And it was a pivotal point in my career. And it was a pivotal point as a leader because I was angry at the time. And I'm Irish. I'm from New York, so you get angry and you do things that you might regret if you hold on to the anger. So I had to flush it, and I had to really reinvent myself and decide I'm going to do it different. I'm going to do it differently, and it turned out to be the best decision. But it was a gut wrenching time for myself and the firm. It was the darkest days of my career, but we just came through it really shining.
That is amazing. This is what's gold to me, is when a leader can share the kind of stories like this and be able to, well, like you're saying, being vulnerable and sharing that experience, because this is how we learn. And if we can understand, I mean, there's so many pieces here. I want to know, though, what did you do to flush the anger? Because that is a key point.
Yeah, I just relied on my faith. And, I just took it to God and I said, look, I can't handle this. It makes me angry. I'm losing sleep. This is not going to be good for my health. It's not going to be good for my family or my company. And I just said, it's yours. And God it talks to you in those moments. And he said, bring it. I can handle it. But you have a responsibility as a leader to lead in a different way. And that's kind of where servant leadership emerged as our culture. He said, I'll take care of you, but you got to take care of everybody else. You got to put everybody else first, your clients, your teammates. And if you lead a selfless life, I'll take care of you. That was the kind of the covenant that God made with me. And I never looked back. I never doubted it. I never worried about it. I got over the anger instantly. I have no ill feelings towards the two gentlemen who left, and I wish them well. And our paths had never crossed, which is fine. But servant leadership, to me, is the most powerful leadership style because, the saying that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And servant leadership is a way to tell people that you care more about them than you care about yourself. You're trying to build them up as opposed to, building up yourself. And that was really pivotal for our firm to understand that. And I had to walk that walk every day. It can't be phony. It can't be just stated. You have to back it up. So when I get to the office and I'm in the kitchen emptying the dishwasher, and the administrative assistant walks in, who usually does that. She sees me doing that because I just got there early. I was waiting for the coffee maker to make the coffee, and I emptied the dishwasher. That's way to serve her, so she doesn't have to do that, and she doesn't think that I expect her to do it. So, you can't ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself if you're going to be a servant leader, and that's what I tried to be.
Yeah, I'm really hearing on this servant leadership, and I love it. It's definitely, I think, a very valuable and resourceful way to lead. It's not necessarily for not everyone embraces it. I mean, let's face it, not everyone does. So let's see if you can share with me then a couple of pitfalls that I would find myself in with regards to servitude leadership. And can you just dial that in, knowing that you've retired and you've come through so much and building up everything you said about taking 100% responsibility personally, so that, either way, but then you also have this connection, and we can call it God, divine. I don't get mixed up too much in the semantics, but the fact is there is a higher power, right? And we can connect with that. How does that come into play with service, servitude, and the full personal responsibility, and then also balancing letting go and letting God, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
in the realm of leadership and how we are making an impact, especially because I know you're working with youth today. It's 2024 and we live in a different time than I mean, it's just when I just have conversations with youth, there's definitely different viewpoints. And I'm curious as to what you would advise on this with those pieces. Service, I believe in it, but how does it become servitude? And then also dealing with this culture. Over to you on that.
Yeah, the culture today tries to reinforce that it's all about you, that you can be anything, do anything, have anything. And a lot of it's just driven by the fact that the marketers and television want you to buy things. We're very materialistic, and there's a few other sayings. Nobody at the end of their life said, "Gee, I wish I spent more time at the office." So I think to have balance in your life, to make sure that at the end of your life that you've made your community better, you've lived a life of service in some way, you've helped somebody else. The saying, you can't live a full day unless you do something for somebody who can't repay you, is a great thought. And this is all wrapped around the conversation that you want to have with God at the end of the day or the end of your life, when he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And that's all the praise I ever want. I don't need any accolades, awards. All I want is God to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now, some days he looks down and he says to me, "Mike, what in the world are you doing? You are so off." Sometimes he laughs, sometimes he shakes his head.
So what
But
would that look like? What would you
that,
be doing that it would be laughing? Give me an example of what that would look
oh,
like.
that's when I'm angry or selfish or just off. I'm thinking too much of myself, and I have those moments all the time because I'm human. I'm far from perfect. And I get angry at my wife for even a reason that I think is valid, and I hang on to that anger too long. There's all kinds of ways to be too self-absorbed. So you have to really surrender your will every day. Even as a leader has to surrender his will every day and put the team first. What does the team need? What do my key players need? As a coach or a leader in a business, you've got to make people better. And if you take care of them, they're going to take care of you. If you walk in with your will and this is all about me, things don't go as well.
So I agree with that. And I think it is very important to empower our teams and to really come from that place. But at the same time, a leader still has to hold a bigger vision. Don't you believe that? Or
Yes,
what? I
yes.
mean, so how do you balance that? That's what I'm looking like, because it's a different energy to go in and really come from this place of the service and really serving, but then also you have to step into a higher place and envision something bigger, especially when there's chaos or the situation where
Yeah.
there's dishonorable people coming in and wanting to leave the company, and now there's this situation. So how do you step into those two different, distinct, different energies as a leader?
Yeah, to do that, you've got to establish your core values, what you're trying to accomplish as a firm or an organization, and what matters most. To our firm, it was really to be honest in all things, to always put clients first and teammates first, and to be reliable and dependable. Do the little things well, be right the first time, attention to detail, just the basic blocking and tackling, but doing it all the time, not once in a while when you're in a good mood, but all the time. So when you have instances where you fall short or somebody on the team falls short, you just sit down face to face and you go, hey, remember what we're all about. Remember what we're trying to do here. Let's look at this situation. And did we fall short of our goals, of our core values? And how can we get back on track? And what can I do to help you get back on track? So it's always collective. It's not let's pick out who we can blame, but let's rally around somebody who may have fallen short. So your core values in what I call your non-negotiables. Being honest is not negotiable. It's not an option. That was one of our non-negotiables. So, but we're all human. We all err. We all make mistakes, fall short. So you rally around those people. You help them up. It's much more productive to give somebody a hug and sit down face to face and encourage them than to try to blame them or single out. And I do that when I coach with young men, and I try to do that as a leader. Nobody has ever said, "Gee, I'm getting too much encouragement." So I'm a big encourager. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So I heard consistency, alignment with your vision and your values. That is absolutely vital. That's definitely the first place that I would go to. And then those non-negotiables, knowing for sure this is where we're drawing the line in the sand. That also helps so much with confidence within the organization. So really, really good insight there. Okay. Advice for leaders to lead stronger, longer, whether they're an up and coming leader, whether they're right in the trenches, but for them to lead stronger, longer.
I think the starting point is to develop your core values and your non-negotiables. Or what do you stand for? And I just don't see how you can be an effective leader over an extended period of time if you don't have core values. Because when adversity hits, and it will, when things go wrong, and it will happen, you've got to have some basis. Faith for me was kind of the core of it, but a commitment to integrity and trying to be reliable and dependable. Those were my core values. So when things went wrong, you rely on that. You go, okay, this is what I'm all about. I don't like what's happening. How am I going to deal with it? So, adversity doesn't necessarily shape character, it reveals character. So going into the situation, you've got to put your spiritual armor or your character armor around you to be ready for it. You can't all of a sudden go, oh man, things are going horrible. What am I all about? You got to know what you're all about going into battle. And
100%. In
yeah,
terms of an actual day-to-day habits or a couple of habits that you really implement as a leader, how would you do that? Because I know the core values. Is there something specifically that you did as a daily habit that really reinforced you leading stronger?
um, on the way to work, and I still do it today. Even whenever I first get in the car, I state the Lord's Prayer, and I do it slowly. I've actually written a book called The Lord's Prayer Slowly, and that just centers me. That kind of puts God first. It kind of reminds me, and this may seem comical, but it reminds me that I'm not the center of the universe. And I think that's a challenge for guys because they tend to think at times that they're the center, and it's laughable. But a lot of people fall prey to that, and I have in my life too. So I do that centering prayer, and then and that connects me. That connects me with God, and that connects me with my core values, and that connects me with servant leadership. And when I do that, there will always be some name, somebody that comes into my mind, and I'll call that person when I get to the office or when I get back home, or I'll send them an email, and you make that connection with somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, and just amazing things happen. They'll say, "Hey, by the way, I'm having tests for prostate cancer. I appreciate the call." And you make their life better. What else are we on this earth for other than to make connections and help people? So that happens a lot.
So good. So good. Okay. That is beautiful. This whole theme around connection, consistency, and core values. Beautiful. What is your go-to book?
This book I've read probably 12 times, by C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. And it's just a fabulous book that kind of just refocuses on our relationship with God, and how important that is, to, as they said in the movie Rudy, I know there's a God and I'm not it. And, we want to be our own God sometimes, or we want other things to be gods in our life, our bank account, or our physicality. So that book kind of is a great way to just revisit the thought of who God is and how important he is in shaping our morality and our core values, and where they come from. And they come from our connection with God. He's wired us to live a life of service and to do things in an honorable way. That's how he designed us. The human side gets off track all the time, and it happens to everybody. It happens to me. But the connection to God gets us back where we're supposed to be. He makes us the real us. And John Ortberg had a great way to say it. He said he makes us youier, the person we're designed to be. I'm not fully me unless I'm connected to God. When I'm disconnected, I'm irritable, I'm angry, I'm all kinds of things. But that's not the real me. That's not the real me.
What was the word you used?
It's called youier.
Youier?
Youier.
Youier.
Instead of just being you, you're even more you. You're really fully
youier.
Yeah,
oh,
youier.
Wow. John who?
John Ortberg. Good writer and theologian. And that only happens when you're connected, because God gives you more patience, more friendliness, more called the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. He gives you those in abundance. And who wouldn't be a better version of themselves with all those things? So that's kind of the connection.
I think this is an important message, and definitely an important one for today. We all need to take to heart some of the things that Mike has said today. I will sit with this. I'm kinesthetic, so I have all these notes that I've been writing since you've been talking, and just feeling that and understanding. I love the youier. I want to be more youier, right?
Right.
More
right.
me. And
Right.
it can definitely derail us when we start thinking, I want to be the best version of me. And what does that look like? But from a selfish way. And that's definitely something to take into a contemplation and observe. This has been so insightful, Mike. Thank you so much. Will you share? I know you've transitioned to, you retired, but in retiring, you are now giving so much more and supporting teams, supporting with what you do in your community. And if someone were to want to reach out to you, I will put you said you would give the email, but I'll put that in the show notes. Is there any other way that folks would best find you? Maybe find your book as well? You said you have your books. How can we reach you?
Yes, thanks for mentioning that. I have an author's website with my 13. I've written 13 books. I think it's 13. K's, my last name, kaysbooks.com. It has my blog, my weekly blog. I do a weekly blog, and then has all my books. And so plenty of information if you can't sleep and you want to learn more about me. Just visit my author site.
So good. This has been beautiful. really rewarding for me. I just want to thank you so much for your time. And I want to encourage all of our listeners, go to kaysbooks.com. Is it book? Kays,
Books.
kaysbooks.com. And Kays is Kayes books.com to learn more
Correct.
about Mike Kays and his servant leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank
Many
you.
blessings.
Enjoyed it.